Hey now everybody, this is Professor Island, and today we're discussing the grading policy for the Distance Education English 101 Freshman Composition course. Whether you're in the regular Distance Ed English 101 or you're doing the summer and winter Distance Ed, the grading is essentially the same. The assignments that you will do are the same for both classes, but obviously you'll just do them in a much more rapid fashion in the winter and summer class. So you choose your class once you're on englit.org there and you're gelling on the lava lamp there. Click on your class and you'll notice that the grading policy and assessment is its own link. And if you scroll down, you get an actual grid of all the assignments that you'll do during the course of the class. The primary thing to understand is that there will be one test somewhere in the middle of the course, and that test is worth about 20% of your grade. And you will also have two papers. Paper 1 is worth 15%, and the final paper is worth 25%. When you take a test, you will come onto the campus, and that is the only time you're required to come onto campus, and you'll go to the testing center, and if you read the testing instructions on the paper format and test instruction webpage, which would be right here where it says paper format and test instruction, it'll tell you how to do the testing thing and essentially how to get to the testing center and et cetera, et cetera. But back to the grading. The two papers are research papers. The first paper is going to analyze a story, usually what you pawn I will redeem, but I can change that periodically, and I sometimes do. But essentially you're analyzing the work using the story itself only. And so you're quoting and citing from the primary source, the story itself, and demonstrating that you understand how things like conflict and setting and things like that work. The final paper is actually the paper that makes this class transfer to Cal State, UC, and other fine institutions of higher learning. And that's because it requires that you do actual research outside of the story itself. That means you will find what we call secondary sources, resources that discuss the story, or discuss the author, or discuss the era, or discuss the issues, that you will also incorporate with quotation into your paper. As part of this final paper, which is worth 25% of the grade, you're also doing two other assignments that are part of that. One of them is the annotated works cited. The annotated works cited, worth 10% of your grade, again, is explained on the paper format and test instructions, but essentially is a list of 10 items, one of them being the story itself, and at least one of them being a biography, and the other 8 being resources that are specifically written about your story in the context of literary analysis. And you would then go to EBSCOhost or to the Gale Literature Resource Center, and you would find these articles, and then you would give me the reference, the works cited entry that they give you, and then you give me a little paragraph on what the thing is that you've found. And you need 10 of those things for the annotated works cited. It does not mean you're going to use all 10 in your paper, but it does demonstrate that you've done some research and you have plenty of material to choose from before you start writing your paper. The other thing you're going to do for me is an outline, and the outline is worth 5%. The outline basically is the structure of your paper. And once again, we go to paper format and test instruction, and if you scroll down, there is a discussion of outlines, and essentially I give you a structure. There's the butterfly. I give you a structure of what an outline looks like. You have an introduction that has only 2 pieces to it, the background statement and the thesis statement. And for your outline, you should have at least that thesis statement, the overall point of your paper. Likewise, you have a conclusion, similarly short. The summary, which is a reiteration of your thesis statement, should be something that you give in the outline that you turn into me. And then for the body paragraphs, and you'll notice that each body paragraph is essentially the same. The body paragraphs will essentially develop the analysis that you're going to be doing. What I would suggest that you're thinking about is not to give me a paragraph of symbol and then a paragraph of conflict and then a paragraph of irony, but to start off with an idea, something that's going on in the story. And this, by the way, this whole thing right here is the outline of one body paragraph, where you come up with a major idea. The character struggles with another character, and then you discuss the conflict, and then you discuss the symbolism of the conflict, and then you discuss the irony of that conflict. And what you're demonstrating to me in that paragraph is that you know how symbolism and irony and conflict all work together. How well you develop that and whether you include direct quotation that you're going to use is up to you, but you do need to give me at least the topic sentence for each of the body paragraphs that you're going to be using in your paper. Those are the elements that have to do with the papers. Remember that papers are sent directly to my email address, eng101de@earthlink.net. The other stuff that gets posted on Blackboard specifically include the message board discussion group. And the message board discussion group, which is called discussion group on Blackboard, it's a group project, but you're not really working with other people. Instead, what you do is you choose a discussion group. There's 3 of them. You only join one of them. And you get into that discussion group, and there will be an assignment message. And in that assignment message, you will identify that there's a bunch of choices in terms of topics. You choose one of those topics. You create a thread within that folder, and you post a message with the title of that topic as the thread. And that means you're claiming that topic all for your own. There's only one person per topic, and it's first come, first serve. And so the deal is, when it comes time, you'll do your research, and you'll use resources, the same kinds of databases that we're using for the paper, which is EBSCO and Gale Literature Resource Center, and you'll create an analysis, whether you've chosen the biography of the author or some kind of historical event, or a discussion of some kind of place or something like that, depending on which group you've joined. And you'll post a 3-paragraph essay, again, short introduction, short conclusion, body paragraph with all your detail, all your quotation, and you'll post it within that discussion group posting, and that's worth 15%. The other part of that is the next folder down, in which you have the message board discussion group response. And in this case, what you do is you read one of the other postings in your group, and this is the one time that you're allowed to write a single paragraph as a response, as something that you submit to me, and you're allowed to refer to yourself and to give your opinion. However, you're also supposed to quote from the work that you're reporting on, which is somebody else's posting, and you're also providing something from the story or something from research that you think is relevant. And so you must quote from the other person's paper, and you also must quote from a resource to show that you're doing research. You're not grading their work. You're not saying, this person doesn't know how to write, or this person's a great writer. Instead, what you're doing is you're talking about the subject, and you're adding something to the conversation. You're showing that you have also looked into what they're talking about, and you're adding something to further the conversation. The other thing that takes probably more time, but is very useful and helpful, is the participation grade based on responses. And those responses, of course, are the last 7 items on Blackboard's discussion board. You only do 5 of them if you want an A. You do 3 of them if you want a B. You do 2 of them if you want a C. Anything less than that, you're going to get a D. And basically, these are short 3-paragraph essays that respond to one of the stories. And this is your opportunity to get feedback from me, very quick, immediate feedback from me as to whether you're applying quotation correctly, whether you're applying the formatting correctly, and whether you're applying analysis, the literary terms correctly. And certainly if you do the paper 1 response, you're submitting essentially one of the body paragraphs from your paper as a body paragraph of your response. And the same thing goes for the final paper response. The idea is that it gives you an opportunity to get quick feedback from me, quick turnaround to see whether or not you're on the right track for the paper that you're ultimately writing. As you can see, the outline, the responses, the message board discussion group items, the final paper, the annotated works cited, the first paper, and of course the test. This is your grade for the class. These things all have due dates. They're all posted in Blackboard in the folders. That's where the due dates are. And that comprises how you get a grade in this class. So anyway, hope that helps explain things. If you have any questions, you can always send me an email at eng101de@earthlink.net. And until then, stay in touch.